For Sunday, July 12th, you've found the Georgia Gang. And topping our agenda this day, Burl Ellis gambles in court and loses. The term criminal illegal now comes into language all across the nation. And in South Carolina, that battle flag comes down from outside the state capitol. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And good Sunday. We're glad you could be with us. Theron Johnson is sitting in today for Jeff Dickerson. Theron, glad you could be here.
Good to be here. Thank
Have
you.
I seen those glasses before?
You have.
I have?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Alexis liked them, so I thought I would bring them back this week.
You look like Rick Perry.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that far at all.
I definitely speak better English than that guy, so.
All right. Let's turn ourselves to issues, and boy, do we have a lot of them this week. We're going to start right in our backyard in DeKalb County, and we learned this week that Burl Ellis was sentenced to 18 months in the state prison system. Judge Courtney Johnson said he showed no accountability. Now, it could have been much worse. He could have gotten 15 years, but he gets 18 months, and he undoubtedly will appeal. And Alexis, I'm going to start with you on this because Robert James, who probably is in some political trouble, he's the DeKalb County District Attorney.
Brought the charges and brought the case.
He let the press know that Burl Ellis turned down 4 offers of plea deals in which he could have pleaded to a misdemeanor and kept his license to practice law. I've analyzed that upside down and sideways. Do you think Burl Ellis made a mistake in not accepting the plea?
Well, of course, 20/20 hindsight is good, but I think that Burl Ellis believed that he was innocent. He did not believe he was guilty of these charges, and so he wanted to prove his day in court and clear his name. And when you look at, 9 charges ended up being brought in the second trial. He was acquitted of 5 of them, only found guilty of 4, and the guilty verdicts were attempted stuff, not even actually doing an illegal act. So I think he really thought he was going to be able to clear his name. So he didn't want to, he didn't want to take a plea.
But Theron, as he sits in a state prison, a guy whose career is pretty much ruined, and he was a very promising a politician. I mean, he had his ticket punched in all the right ways. Right. He's got to be thinking, boy, why didn't I take that deal? Because with a misdemeanor, any potential employer would understand there was a lot of politics involved.
Right.
He might have lost his pension, by the way. I looked at the way that a cab law is set up. But nonetheless, now he is certainly won't practice law again unless he wins on appeal. And boy, if you won on appeal, would that throw DeKalb into some chaos? What do you think?
Well, as you guys stated on the show last week, I mean, this is just a sad day. I mean, You're right. I mean, look, no one wants to see anyone have to go and serve any time in jail. And Burl Ellis was a person who came in with a very promising career and clearly with some bad decision making. He's had this verdict come down. But I want to go back to Robert James in the plea deal. So sources tell me that out of the total 4 plea deals, 2 were offered in the first case, and then 2 was offered in the second case. And then also, sources have shared with me that it was one particular plea deal that was offered to the former CEO that would have allowed him to not serve any jail time. And all he would have had to do was come forward and say, I'm going to accept this deal to try to move forward. I'm going to admit guilt to what I'm allegedly being tried for. And that was offered to him twice. And so the flip side of this is that, one good thing that I think that people are saying in DeKalb County is that they're now able to kind of move on. Hopefully this darkness and this sort of cloud of just the stigma has gone away, and hopefully the county can move forward. But I think a lot of the criticism that Robert James is getting, I think is a little unfair. I mean, he is there as a district attorney to prosecute any crimes, whether they're rapes, whether they're murders, whether they're shoplifting or civil case. I mean, that's his job. And so
well, he hasn't done a very good job in corruption because he's ignored most of the special grand jury report. He veered off and grabbed Burl Ellis. He ignored the stuff that the grand jury wanted him to look at. He took some low-hanging fruit, whom he won't offer a plea to, by the way. Phil, what would you have done if you were Burl Ellis?
Well, I think I would have taken the deal that was offered to me because...
Especially the one just before jury selection.
That's right, because as I pointed out last week, and all of you know, the tapes that were played, he was wiretapped and taped. He came across as a bully, yes. He was shaking down people. He was treating people horribly. They were devastating, and I don't believe he should have gone on the stand either. Well, let me finish my point too, because Theron, I hate to tell you, and I check with your sources because my sources tell me you've got the feds investigating in DeKalb County. You're going to have Robert James doing more investigations. Yes, it was low-hanging fruit. There's higher-hanging fruit that's going to be got. As I've said on this program, I'll break some news here. Not only are all of the commissioners, except for the new one, under investigation, you may even have some judges in DeKalb County under investigation. The P card thing is not going away. By October or November, you'll have the Mike Bowers, Richard Hyde investigation open to the public, and then we'll see what our Attorney General does, the U.S. Attorney, and also Robert James.
Let me change.
And also, well, with the P card investigation, you know, it was a federal investigation that found the commissioner guilty of misusing her card and extorting money and putting money in her own pocket. What was her name? I can't remember.
Elaine Boyer.
Yeah. Right. So, and Robert James did not prosecute that case.
All right, let me change this everything. I want to hustle through this because we've got a lot of sort of emotional stuff to contend with today. But there's a Fulton County IT case, information technology, and I really wasn't going to pay a lot of attention to it until I realized that it's exactly what went on in DeKalb County. That's the business of splitting contracts to bring them in at under $50,000 so they don't require Fulton Commission approval. And Phil, one of the Fulton County employees looked at this and said there needs to be an investigation of this, all these so-called split contracts.
Well, there does, and we just talked about DeKalb.
But it was 2005.
That's right, and I tell you, I think that Sam Olens, our Attorney General, I like what he's been doing lately. He needs to step up and look at that one.
Yeah, well, let's focus on something for a second before we move on. This happened in 2005, and the audit was commissioned by the current Fulton County Commission, and one particular commissioner, not to exclude the other commissioners, but Joan Gardner. I mean, this is not a new issue, Dick. I mean, they've been for the last probably month or so been talking about this issue. So she sort of stepped into a leadership role and really has taken on. And then with Dick Anderson being there, who we all agree is off to a very good start.
I think he has taken the leadership role too since January.
I'd like to see the DA though take a little.
I get that, but let's give the county a chance because unlike DeKalb,
I'm with you.
Yeah, unlike DeKalb,
Paul Howard, the DA in Fulton, had a chance for several years, and I think it's going to have to take someone else other than Paul Howard.
I think these split contracts are part of the DeKalb grand jury report several years ago, and they were also ignored. You see, that's what I'm getting at. Two counties, sort of the same idea. All right, we've got to hustle through this. I am absolutely perplexed that a Fulton County Superior Court judge could get carjacked in this city. I'm stunned by that, Judge Karen.
Why? Carjacking is out of control. I've talked to the Zone 2 commander.
I'll tell you why. Her son was carrying a 40-millimeter pistol.
Well, I tell you what, I hopefully had a license for it. But carjacking is out of control in the city of Atlanta. And crime, as we've talked about in the gang, is up in Atlanta. Even Mayor Kasim Reed, to his credit, finally last week says we've got a gang problem we've got to address. We did have a spike in crime.
Let me jump in there for a quick second. I ran the mayor's campaign in 2009.
And you love him, and you're not going to ever speak ill of him. We know that.
I want to be clear, but when you make a statement saying that he's finally admitting that we had a gang problem, our whole campaign strategy was around pushing back by increasing the police force and dealing with the whole gang issue. Because as you remember, Phil, people were getting their doors kicked in, people were getting carjacking. But to another point on
it was a big headline in the AJC last week that he's finally saying this is out of control.
You need to go back and do a Bing search or something like that.
Phil's not going to give up on this crime thing, but I just flashed on 2009, Theron, when you reminded me. Should we call you Landslide, Theron?
No.
How many votes did the mayor win by?
714.
How much?
714. 14.
Well, it's a win's a win.
A win is a
win is a
win. We'll
win.
take it. But to the issue of crime in the city, we've
Gang
also
violence on the rise. Did you see that?
But okay, I'm going to print you out a clip and show you that he's been saying that since 2009. But when we talk about crime in the city, we've also got to look at poverty. We also got to look at jobs. I mean, a lot of this is people who need jobs, who need a better, parental guidance to basically go out here and do a community. And I don't think this judge should be criticized for being carjacked. I mean,
no,
because her son had a pistol.
And she was carjacked in a nice part of town, and they were just going to pick up the son's girlfriend. I don't know about the gift of the car from the brother, but I was just so stunned by the fact that the carjackers got away with his 40-millimeter pistol, which was hidden under the front seat.
This is going on a lot, Dick. This just made the headlines because of the judge.
All right, quick note, the Clayton County Police Chief has retired rather than being reassigned to 911. His name is Greg Porter. I have no idea what that's all about.
It's politics. Jeff Turner is his political opponent, and Turner on the commission got rid of him.
I figured that. Okay. When we come back, we'll turn to the next hot button issue, and it is hot. It's the business of a new category of person stepping into the language, a criminal illegal. It's kind of hard to say, but criminal illegals dominating a lot of the national news this week, and it has an impact in Georgia. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
We're sort of affiliated with the Fox News channel, though we're not really. We're miles away, and our paychecks are not reflective. But at any rate, the Fox News Network, the Fox FNC, has been eaten up this week with the case in San Francisco of the young woman killed by an illegal alien who had been deported 6 times and who had committed felonies and who was given sanctuary in San Francisco. In fact, he went to San Francisco because of that city's sanctuary city policies. Phil, I know this is your area. This week, Josh McCoon, the state senator from Columbus, offered a wide-ranging plan on illegal immigration. And he touched on this criminal illegal thing, and then he said some other things that I'm not sure were wise. I think he could have limited his field a little bit, but basically, he wants to do away with sanctuary cities and counties, and we've got them right here in Georgia. Well, we do. He did have a news conference, and Senator McCoon is expanding Senate Bill 6, which he introduced last session. That would deny driver's licenses to the illegals, and now he wants to ban Fulton County, DeKalb County, Clayton County, and we can't get a straight answer from the city of Atlanta, but they're not honoring what they call detainers from the feds, specifically Immigration Control Enforcement, ICE. And this is what happened in San Francisco. The sheriff and the mayor there weren't honoring detainers, and this is when they're about to be released, and the feds want to put a hold on them, and we want them. And so this is terrible. This is not protecting our communities in these 3 counties. I hope, I'm going to hopefully cut some slack to the city of Atlanta. I hope they're not doing this, but we can't get a straight answer. Maybe you can from your buddies. Alexis, I did a little research this week, and this business of criminal illegals killing upstanding citizens is not just limited to the situation of the woman in San Francisco. It's all over the country. Apparently the federal government doesn't actually record the figures, but anecdotally, it looks like a lot of criminal illegals who have been deported are returning to commit crimes. And in fact, in this case, let's mention this, that the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, was using a gun that formerly belonged to a federal officer. Could it have been in that Obama Fast and Furious deal? I don't know. But it's a widespread. Well, it's because of the border problem, as we all know. But I would think that even liberals who are for this sanctuary policy, let's go back to the rule of law. I understand the reason for the sanctuary policy on the liberal point of view is they want to have illegals that are here coordinate with the police and open the lines of communications. Okay, but it's gotten way out of hand because there's a lot more of these Kate Steinleys, the girl who was killed, around. Alexis, we start with the word illegal. Yes. Then we add the word criminal illegal.
These are the bad guys that Donald Trump is concerned about, right?
Yes,
that Mexico is sending to America.
And we all ought to be concerned about, not just him.
The thing is,
well, they're 39% of federal sentencing. Criminal illegals are 39% of federal criminal sentences in this United States. They are 3.1% of the population, at the highest.
Well, so that means they need to be deported and kept out, or that something needs to happen in Mexico to keep them in jail where if they have been found to be criminals.
Couldn't agree more. David Perdue, Theron, our junior U.S. Senator, sent a list of 13 questions to Homeland Security. I think this is an issue that is building. There's a call for something called Kate's Law, which would require that somebody who is deported gets who's committed a crime and gets deported should be sentenced to an automatic 5-year prison term. I don't know if, for example, the California prisons can handle that, frankly. What do you think?
Well, it's a federal thing. They'd be going to federal prison.
They're crowded out there, too.
But let me say a couple things here. Number one, President Obama, you guys have praised him on this show, and actually he's received some criticism for being one of the presidents that's actually been the toughest on immigration.
Well, that's ridiculous. How can you say that
on the borders? On the borders.
He has done nothing.
It has been documented.
He has done nothing on the borders.
Again, I'm gonna have to really. No, I'm not smoking anything, Phil. And my point is this: he has been very tough when it comes to protecting our borders. Number two, a lot of these folks, they're already here. We've got to basically deal with them. We've got to get them legal, and we've got to basically make sure they have every right to basically.
Even the criminals?
Let me finish. Now, the people who are committing these crimes. That's a whole separate category that we've got to deal with.
I said criminal, illegal.
And so the point is that I just think that it's a little disingenuous when we basically label all of these folks who want to come to America and they come here legally and go through the process to basically provide for their families, to let these criminals that are committing these crimes sort of overshadow that. But then this whole thing with Donald Trump, and I agree with Alexis, I mean, this is just all a stunt for him to try to drive up the radical right.
You just said they were coming here legally? They're not coming here legally.
Some are coming here legally and going through the process, but a lot of them.
That's fine.
Yeah, but my point is...
we're worried about illegal immigration, and as you rightly point out, the porous border and people coming back.
So somebody's suggestion, I don't know if it was Ted Cruz or somebody, said there needs to be 20,000 Border Patrol people to close up the border. Who's going to pay for that?
You know what? We already are paying for it. But you know the border patrol and ICE are suing. A union is actually suing the Obama administration. Why? Because they're not allowed to do their jobs by the Obama administration.
You just want to keep everyone.
You don't want to tell the truth about this union.
No, I'm telling the truth. But you don't want to give.
You love unions. This is the one union you don't like. But they're suing Barack Obama.
That's fine. My point is
they can't do their job of enforcing the law.
Be fair with your facts.
Oh, I am. You can check this out. Check out the lawsuit.
We got to get out. I'll have the last word. You want to know what the future is? You look into the future, good or ill, I don't know. But this week we learned that Latinos outnumber Anglo-Saxons in the state of California, our largest state. And that is not a pretty picture if you're a conservative who believes in a democratic republic. That's scary. When we come back, another hot button issue. The battle flag comes down in South Carolina.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
Quickly, before we turn to the battle flag, a couple of local notes. There are special elections coming up Tuesday in some parts of Georgia. For example, in Brookhaven, there is a four-way special nonpartisan election for a state house seat. It's an interesting election because J. Max Davis has had some issues from his tenure as mayor of Brookhaven. Catherine Bernard is a strange mixture of libertarian, conservative, and radical leftist. And another guy calls himself a bull moose Republican. And then there's a Democrat who played quarterback a little at Georgia Tech.
Well, that's right. And, you know, we all know special elections are low turnout and very tricky. There's actually three others. We can get into that in a minute. But I was surprised, just as a political footnote, Catherine Bernard, a very articulate attorney, you have described her is one of the challengers. She was endorsed, now says she's a Republican, but she was endorsed by Atlanta Progressive News, which is a left-wing outfit, and they're saying that she's the first Republican that they've endorsed, so I'm a little nervous.
It's because of the depth of her community service.
Well, it's also the people are evolving, and we live in sort of a nonpartisan society now where
my gosh, I don't think so.
They're understanding that people are not identifying themselves so much with parties. They just want people who are going to go to Washington or go to to the state capitol to try to get things done. So I think, they should be, applauded for doing
Give us the other
it's
couple
a new
of
day.
races.
You got
There's a couple other races
Millennium
real quick. Jay Roberts, he resigned to go over to the DOT.
Right.
That is an open seat over down there in Ocilla. And you've got an interesting one between Dr. Betty Price, Congressman Tom Price's wife, and the Harry Geisinger, the old Harry Geisinger seat up in Roswell. That will be an interesting vote there. And let's see, we've got
Forsyth County.
Forsyth County. I can't call that one.
Okay, I don't even.
And did Marita Johnson?
Oh yeah, and that's right in
that's
DeKalb
Tyrone
County.
Brooks' seat. You're right.
No, that's the cab.
Excuse me.
The
That's
cab
right.
commissioner's race,
Correct.
Marita Johnson.
That's right.
Who's the
And,
wife of Congressman
George
Hank
Turner.
Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't do that very well because I know we want to get to this next idea, and that is that Friday morning, the South Carolina State Highway Patrol Honor Guard pulled down the Confederate battle flag that had flown on a lonely flagpole away from the state capitol. It's been there since Democrats erected it in 1954. Democrats preserved it.
No, in 1961.
It was Governor Ernest Hollings.
They put it where it is.
Did it? He
It was
the one who-
1961.
Yeah, when the
Correct.
Democrats
Yeah.
were still the Dixiecrats.
Yes.
Correct.
Who are now the Republicans.
Well,
And they did it. And they did it in
I guess
response
I'm
to their
not that
protest to the civil
sophisticated.
rights
They were
movement.
Democrats.
Okay.
Yeah.
But while that's going on, there was a cockamamie proposal in Congress from Democrats to ban Confederate battle flags from federal cemeteries where there are Confederate war dead. And the Republicans had to pull their vote on that measure because apparently they don't have the votes, and it got pretty emotional.
Yes, it did.
And Nancy Pelosi tried to ban the state of Mississippi from the U.S. Capitol.
Well, let's take
Because
that.
it has
It was
the
an
battle
Interior
emblem on
Department
its flag.
spending bill. That's what this amendment was attached to. And I think we ought to honor any soldier of any cause if they want to put a flag on a gravestone. I do think the Democrats were taking a cheap shot because these are graves of fallen soldiers, and I don't understand.
If they can't lie and rest under the flag for which they fought, something's wrong. Suppose France decided in those massive cemeteries in Normandy that the American symbols could no longer be used. No flags could fly over the graves of dead Americans who rescued France, and I wouldn't put that past the French, frankly.
And I'm glad to see even some of the Democrats, I'll praise David Scott and some others, they're saying, look, the Confederate flag went down, that's great over in South Carolina, but we can't take this too far. We cannot start removing memorials. We can't start burying dead people.
Oh, but that's what they want. What do you mean we can't? They're
well,
doing
I
it.
think I'm glad to see.
I think they're going to try to rename the South Lawn of the White House.
Whatever. Well, and in your spirit, Phil, I'll compliment Speaker Boehner, who basically said, "Hey, you know what? Let's step back. Let's have a conversation about this, bipartisan conversation
But
about
David
it."
Scott
All right,
said
we didn't even
conversation
get to the
about what?
proposed. We didn't even get to the proposed cuts in troop strength in Georgia. 4,300 troops recommended by the Army.
Barack Obama weakening our military again.
Please,
But
please,
that'll be
please.
the subject of coming weeks. We'll see. We'll hear a lot more about that. So when we come back, it's time for winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And it is time for winners and losers. And here we go. We'll start with you today, Phil.
I've got a winner, and it's really two winners, the Southeastern Legal Foundation here in Atlanta, and also a voter in Douglas County who wore an NRA instructor cap into the polling place in October of 2014, and they told him, you can't vote, take that hat off. It's partisan. Well, no, it's not partisan. The NRA supports Democrats and Republicans for the Second Amendment. So this man now has been apologized to, and Douglas County will never do it again. And secondly, there was a great talk radio fellow up in North Georgia, Billy Dilworth. He passed away this last week, and he was beloved by a lot of folks, and he was a journalist up in North Georgia.
All right, Alexis, let's go to you.
Okay, I'm going to salute Jenny Horn and Gilda Cobb Hunter. They're two state reps in South Carolina. Gilda Cobb Hunter has been trying to get that flag removed for 15 years, and probably more than that because she was involved in the last compromise. And Jenny Horn made an incredible speech on the floor of the South Carolina legislature that said,
she's a descendant of Jefferson Davis.
And she said, it's time to do this. This is a show of respect for what happened there, the massacre. And then Jimmy Carter has a new book, his 29th book. He is so prolific. It's called A Full Life, and it reflects on his 90 years.
It's been a full life. I'll have my own words on that in a minute. Go ahead there.
All right, a couple winners for me. This is something that should have been done a very, very long time ago, but I want to commend Governor Haley and the South Carolina legislature for doing the right thing and removing the flag. Also want to compliment Congressman Lewis, who made a very, very compassionate floor speech about his proposal around these Confederate flags. He talked about how they need to be in museums and people's homes and not in federal places. And then lastly, I want to make Donald Trump my loser. I think this guy has lost his mind. I think instead of Phil asking me if I'm smoking something, I think you should email Donald Trump and ask him if he's smoking something.
But he's right on that illegal criminal alien stuff.
This guy is totally off base. He's crazy. He's not going to make the nomination on the Republican side.
No, I agree with you there.
He should stop. And he's losing everything. So he's definitely my loser this week.
All right, thank you, Theron. I will make Brookhaven my winner because the city has lowered property taxes for the third time since it was formed just 3 years ago. Jimmy Carter, you mentioned him. He came out this week and said that Jesus would have supported homosexual marriage, failing to understand that actually anybody who tried that back then would have been stoned. And finally, the Darwin Award goes to a New York Giant defensive end who blew his index finger off shooting fireworks. He had a $90 million contract offer on the table, no longer. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.